Hi, my name is Joanne. My friends call me Jojo. I live in a beautiful country called Kenya in East Africa. Oh, and by the way, if you haven't noticed, I am dark-skinned. Does the world think that people who look like me are beautiful?
I remember this one day when I was working in town, minding my own business. Then this random stranger stopped me and he tried to engage me. Then, being a stranger, someone I've never met before, I definitely resisted. In fact, I was in shock. Immediately I dismissed him. He told me, unajifanya na wewe ni mweusi kama mimi.
Colorism exists within many races, but mostly in minority groups, and can be dated back to colonialism and slavery. Colonialists and slave owners had many divide and conquer tactics up their sleeves, and colorism was one of them. In 1712, British slave owner Willie Lynch delivered a speech teaching his methods to other slave owners, one of which included turning color and shade against each other. The apparent superiority of light skin over dark skin is a no-brainer. You've seen it in ads, on TV, in music videos. There's a definite complexion preference.
Some of my very closest friends are actually very light, like it's what people term as rangi ya thao. And for a very long time, I didn't take time to analyze and ask myself, why is it that everyone around me is light? Only later that I came to realize that for me, when you're light, like being light skinned is the standard. It's what society has taught me to be very beautiful. So for me, if you're light, then definitely you make a beautiful friend.
It's amazing how this light-skinned, dark-skinned conversation is ingrained in our subconscious even without knowing. A few weeks back, I posted a picture on Instagram and I noticed when I pressed send that this picture was not really a portrayal of who I am, to be honest. It was a few shades lighter. And at the time of posting it, I didn't intend for it to be that way, but it just looked better in my eyes. And I wondered, have I also been caught up in this colorism thing? And it's the same thing with emojis. For the longest time ever, I would do this emoji or fist bump emoji, and I would pick the caramel or lighter one. And I'm like, look at my fist bump. It's nowhere near that caramel or light one. So now, by the way, I pick the last emoji or the second last emoji, the one that looks black, like my skin color. And I've also had of different conversations amongst young girls, and many of them or some of them say they want to get married to this guy because he's light-skinned or he's white, so that they are going to get cute babies.
When I was growing up, I wanted to get married to a white man, and people used to ask me why. Of course, I just say a white man, but deep down I knew that I wanted to get married to a white man so that we can have like 0.5 kids, and so that they'll never have to go through everything I went through because I was dark.
So last year my book club and I read a book, an amazing book by a British journalist called James Fox. The book is White Mischief, and this book talks about colonialists in Kenya and when they came to Kenya and how they enjoyed themselves. But one thing that struck me was the dark slaves and the light-skinned slaves and how they were segregated. And so the dark-skinned slaves were field slaves because they were uglier because of their color. And the light-skinned slaves were house slaves. They were deemed to be better. They were given less strenuous tasks. And you know what, it just hit me? If I was born in 1900, I would be a field slave. I really would have. I really would have. And that's just sad. At the turn of the century, the remnants of colonial thinking remained with us. And so that meant that because of the segregation between dark and light, the lighter blacks, like in America, thought that they were more superior to the darker ones. So elitist organizations and groupings decided to do certain tests to eliminate people. So, but I find them hilariously ridiculous. The first test is a brown paper bag test. So this is a brown bag, and the idea was to put it against your face And if you are the same complexion as a bag or lighter, then you're good to go. It's against my face, and you can clearly see that it is nowhere near my complexion, so I would have failed that test miserably. If you're darker than the bag, then you cannot gain access to these exclusive clubs. The second test is the blue vein test, which is so hilarious. So you look at your veins and see if your veins can be seen. I can't see mine, so I would have failed that test as well. In the 1940s, psychologists Kenneth and Mamie Clark designed and conducted a series of experiments known colloquially as the doll tests. These were meant to study the psychological effects of segregation on African American children. This test has been recreated over the years with different children, but yet with very similar outcomes. Majority of the children always preferred the white doll or the lighter skinned doll and assigned positive characteristics to it.